Good morning. Today we're going to talk about the relative clauses. So, you know that we use relative clauses to identify and describe the person, place, or thing in the main clause. Okay, so the relative pronouns are who or that are used for people, which or that are used for objects, whose, which is used for showing possession of people, animals, and objects, where, which is used for places, why, for reasons, and when, for expressing time. Okay, so there are two types of relative clauses. The defining relative clauses are the ones that give us essential information, and we have to remember that with these clauses we don't use commas, okay? And the non-defining relative clauses are the ones that give us extra information, and we have to remember that we use commas. Okay, so let's see them in an example. The first one would be, they can't forget that day. Their son was born that day. So we are talking in both sentences about that day. Okay, so we would use when because we are talking about time. Okay, so they can't forget the day when their son was born. We are not using commas because it's essential information. They can't forget it because their son was born that day. It's the reason why. As we have said before, as we are talking about essential information and we are not using commas, it's a defining relative clause. Okay, the next one. That's the book. She bought it yesterday. Okay, so in both sentences, we're talking about a book. So we need to use for an object which or that. We would say that's the book which or that she bought yesterday. So again, we are talking about essential information and we are not using commas. So it would also be a defining relative clause. Okay, next one would be Mary is a very intelligent woman. She's married to Jack. We're talking about a person, Mary, so we need to use for people who or that. The sentence would be Mary, who is married to Jack, is a very intelligent woman. So, is this sentence essential for the meaning of the sentence? No, it's not. It's giving us extra information. So, if we are not sure about who Mary is, we have the information that she's married to Jack. Okay? And as we can see, we're using commas to give the extra information. So, it's a non-defining relative clause. Okay, and the next one is, this park is the biggest one in New York. I met your dad here. So we are talking about a park. So it's a place. We have to use where. Okay. The sentence would be, this park where I met your dad is the biggest park in New York. Okay, so I met your dad here is extra information. It's not related to the sentence that this is the biggest one in New York. It has nothing to do with it. And also, we are using commas. So again, it's a non-defining clause. Okay, so this is all about the relative clauses. Moving on to the comparative and the superlatives, we know that it's different if we are talking about one-syllable adjectives or adverbs and two or more syllable adjectives and adverbs. For the first one, we need to add er if it's a comparative and est if it's a superlative. Okay, so for example, in this example, a van costs more than a motorbike, we would say a motorbike is cheaper than a bike. We are adding er, okay, to the adjective cheap. Okay, then with the two or more syllable adjectives and adverbs, we have to use more plus the adjective plus than. Or for the superlative, the most and the adjective. Let's see it in an example. Everyone in the class is less intelligent than Jack. So Jack is the most intelligent person in the class. So we are using the most and then the adjective. We need to remember that there are some forms that are irregular, such as good, so we use better for the comparative and best for the superlative form. And for bad, we use worse for the comparative form and worst for the superlative. For example, here, staying home is worse than going out. We would say going out is better than staying home. There are other types of comparisons. In order to say that something is similar, we use as plus the adjective plus as again. And if we want to say that it's different, we use not as plus the adjective plus as. For example, if we went back to this example, a van costs more than a motorbike, another way of rephrasing it would be a motorbike is not as expensive as a van. So we are expressing the difference in the price. Another comparison would be less plus the adjective plus than, which is the opposite of more than. So we have seen this before in this example. Everyone in the class is less intelligent than Jack. And then the last one would be the least plus the adjective plus of or in, which is the opposite of the most. So, if we want to change this example, if now instead of talking about Jack, we are talking about Peter. So, everyone in the class is more intelligent than Peter. Peter is the least intelligent person in the class, because everyone else is more intelligent. Okay, so this is all about the comparative and superlative forms.